And one of the things I've really found is this transition from founder-led sales into kind of a self-sustaining, scalable sales motion is a really challenging part of a company. And so I've done it a bunch of times. I've helped a lot of companies and I've gotten really good at it. If you're going to hire someone, they're going to ask you like, who do we sell to and why do we sell to them and what should I be saying and what is the message? And if you as a founder can't answer any of that, then you're stuck. And if you expect these new employees to go figure this out for you, that's where you're going to run into a tremendous amount of trouble, and it's going to take you forever to do that.
Okay, today we have Alex Newmann on the show. He is the founder and CEO of Newmann Consulting Group, where they help recently funded Series A founders transition out of founder-led sales and build scalable, repeatable sales processes. And this is something we did very recently at Warmly, and we could have definitely used Alex's help on this. He runs his own podcast called From Start to Scale, is a venture partner at Next Gen Venture Partners, and is a Techstars mentor, which is very near and dear to our hearts, having gone through the program ourselves. And prior to starting Newmann Consulting Group, he was the COO of Storefront, the world's largest marketplace for retail. So today we're going to be talking about transitioning out of founder-led sales to scalable sales motion. Welcome.
Welcome. Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Let's get into a quick background about yourself, and then we'll dive into the main topic.
So been a seller my entire life. I've sold everything under the sun, from physical products to intangible, financial services, all kinds of things. Started my sales career or startup sales career back in Boulder, Colorado, back in, 2010. Started Pivot Desk, and I was just off and running from individual selling and kind of worked my way all the way up to VP of sales, CRO, eventually started my own companies. And now I'm teaching people how to do everything that I've done, is build repeatable sales processes, scalable processes. And one of the things I've really found is this transition from founder-led sales into kind of a self-sustaining, scalable sales motion is a really challenging part of a company. And so I've done it a bunch of times. I've helped a lot of companies and I've gotten really good at it. So that's like my specific niche.
That's great. You've done it yourself. Now you're helping others. Do you see a common thread? Is there a playbook that we can follow, or is each company different in case by case?
I think it's like an 80-20 rule. I think that there's about 80% of the materials that you can really look at. Obviously, it's based on go-to-market motion. So are you enterprise? Are you PLG? Are you inbound? It really just depends on exactly what you're doing. But there's playbooks for every single type of process and motion that you're actually doing. You can pretty much copy the 80%, make sure you're on the right tracks as far as knowing your ideal customer profile, establishing your sales process, understanding discovery, common questions, use cases, a lot of these different types of things. And then that last 20% is tailored specifically to you and your market and your product and your customers, and exactly what are those tweaks that like actually trick over the customers.
Got it. So it seems like the bones are pretty consistent, and the core of it you can see for any type of business model. So starting from the very beginning, at what point do we need to think about transitioning from founder-led sales to scalable sales motion, or bringing on your first hire?
Yeah, I think that the key, one of the things that you're looking for is around product market fit. And I think one of the mistakes that a lot of founders do is they try to scale before they actually have product market fit. I think the other thing that a lot of founders make the mistake on is trying to hire leadership in to be able to go find this. So whether it's find product market fit or maybe the inklings of what it looks like, and they say, cool, like I want to get out of sales. It's really tough in an ambiguous world, an unstructured world of sales. If that's not your domain, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of tension. There's an uneven amount of work every single day. So I think that in the beginning, once a founder can actually start to get a few sales under their belt, and you're starting to have some of this document, who your customers are, what their problems are, you can have these conversations around, you start to see the process start to repeat itself just a little bit, and this is documented, then it starts to make more sense to go out and hire somebody. Ultimately, you need people to be able to build your business, but I always think about it in terms of, if you're going to hire someone, they're going to ask you like, who do we sell to and why do we sell to them and what should I be saying and what is the message? And if you as a founder can't answer any of that, then you're stuck. And if you expect these new employees to go figure this out for you, that's where you're going to run into a tremendous amount of trouble, and it's going to take you forever to do this. And I think a lot of founders try to hire a sales leader, someone who's done it before, maybe the VP of sales, to come in and go, cool, like I have a couple of customers, now you go build this out. you're still so much in learning phase. You haven't hit product market fit stage. You're starting to get inklings of traction, but you don't know, is it because I'm a founder and I have a network and I've sold to a couple of my friends, or is it the same problem with the same type of ICP over and over again? And I think that's really important. And so once that traction starts to happen, then you can look at, all right, let's hire a couple more people. And I like to hire in groups. So after the first hire, I really try to hire in groups of people, because then they have buddies. There's a little bit more like internal competition. You start to see what personalities gel well and work well. It's different styles. And so the risk is you end up with one rep that works really well. And the downside is you lose one type of thing. But the upside is you could have a couple of good reps if you hit them. It's really important to not try to speed through this phase. It's one of those things where it's like, if you were to go build a house and you just try to put up the entire frame and you build the first floor, then you build the second floor. And if you go too fast, you realize, oh shit, I forgot to build stairs. And so then you're building stairs outside of the house, and you're always making these like hacks to try to make it work. Is if you just slow down and make sure that you're actually hitting things in the right direction, in the right way, that's a little bit more planning. And I call it hypothesis testing. Same idea how engineers often build, measure, learn, and how they build products today is you build a little bit, test it, and then you keep doing it. And so I think that you can do the same thing with sales and marketing, until you can get to a point where you have revenue, you have repeatable customers, churn has been managed, you have maybe some word of mouth like referrals and networking. Those types of things are going to start to give you the signals in order to feel comfortable during that. All right, let's actually begin the transition.
So the first couple hires are salespeople. They're not sales leaders, because what you're trying to optimize for is an understanding of your customer so that you can achieve product market fit. And bringing on these salespeople is a way to accelerate that process.
Absolutely. So the founder should be the sales leader. So if you bring on sales leaders too early, who are they leading? I get that a lot of people are like, oh, they're player coaches, but they're not coaching anybody because there's nobody below them. I think the whole point is you take titles and you just put them on the shelf for a second and say, you got your founder CEO, who's your kind of like your number one sales leader. And then you got everybody else who's just going out and selling. And putting it, there's awareness, there's testing, there's hypothesis testing, there's talking to prospects and customers, making sure that use cases and the hypotheses that you set actually translate into sales and translate into more conversations and pipelines actually added. And the things that you're saying start to actually like resonate with the market. It depends a lot, because are you creating a category where a lot of new tech these days is category creation? Or is it you're taking something that already exists and just making it a little bit better? So it depends on some of those things in order to know how fast you can go. So there is no like one crisp answer. It's more of there's a variety based on where you are and the various variables that you have.
So you're basically navigating the idea maze with these warriors, these people that you bring on. What kind of person are you trying to bring on? Can you define it in characteristics or things on the resume or soft skills? And then how do you test for that in the interview process or the recruiting process?
Sure. You can absolutely test for it. I think the things that I'm looking for are a couple things. One is you need to know how technical your market is, your product is. So if you have some crazy deep tech that it requires a tremendous amount of industry knowledge, that's going to change a lot of it. Or if you're talking about something that you can teach somebody and maybe a day or a week or something like that to give them a pretty solid understanding, I think that's going to start to change the profile of who you're looking for. And so I would really start with that. And so I like to create what is my ideal sales candidate profile. Same idea of what's your ideal customer profile. Think about what's your ideal sales candidate profile and work back from there. And so does this person have to have certain types of experience, or can you get away with someone who is switching to another industry? So that's one. I think the other thing that you're really looking for is around stage fit. So in order, when you think about stage fit, you are at an early part of the company journey that you need to have someone who is comfortable working in a fairly unstructured, ambiguous like place. When you go to these big companies, if you go to Salesforce, if you go to Bank of America, if you go to United Airlines, like these are processes baked in for years and years that have been proven and reproven over and over again, that you just have to come in and make sure that you just follow that same process and you'll have success. This is totally different. And some people want it and some people want to want it. I think that's the key, is to be able to understand, is the fit of your company stage right now the same fit for the person? And so you can ask them questions around resourcefulness and how they get started if there's no information and no direction. I'd look for people who have started businesses in the past, even side businesses, things in school before. Have they ever started pet projects? One of the things I like to look at is if you've ever traveled alone, traveled together, like how'd you go figure out how to get throughout Europe or China or wherever it is that you went, and you don't speak the language and your parents aren't with you, and there's a lot of problem solving from essentially like a blank canvas. So you can ask a lot of questions that way. I also look for coachability. I look for curiosity. I talked about resourcefulness. I looked for drive. And then my favorite is the John Barrow's train of thought around, do they actually give a shit? And so you have to that's a little bit of hear it. They have to want it. They have to understand a little bit of what they're getting themselves into. You can't teach curiosity. You can't teach coachability. You can talk about it, but I don't know that I can teach someone to actually care. And so if I can do all that, I can teach you how to sell my specific product. I can teach you about the market. I can teach you about certain things, but I can't teach you on how to be resourceful, or at least I personally haven't figured it out in any kind of small way that I can do it that doesn't take years and years. And so you look at it, and so what you'll do is you'll come up with a hiring scorecard based on the attributes that you want. Those attributes have weights behind it, and that you have questions dedicated to each one of the attributes that you care about and that you test for. And it's not like if you were a color, what color would you be, or something like that, or an animal, what animal would you be? Because I have no idea what the answers to those questions actually pertain to in sales. But if I say, hey, walk me through the last time that you were given a project with no direction and you weren't really sure what to do, walk me through what it is, what was the end result, and what'd you learn from it? And you can hear in their answers, do they have any freaking clue? Can they put process and structure around themselves? Or is it like, I don't know, I went to ChatGPT and I typed it in and I followed what it said? And I'm looking for someone who's critically thinking, not someone who's, I love the resourcefulness, but ChatGPT doesn't give you all the right answers.
Is there a top 1% answer for some of these to indicate that someone has a high level of care, high level of motivation, intellectual, curious, any of these attributes that you named? Are there answers that have stuck out in the past?
So the difference is I don't care so much about what it is that you're saying. I'm actually caring more about how you say it. And one of the keys to that is actually going to be the details in what you're saying. So one of the things that's really important is if you're able to provide details in your answers, that shows me that you understand step by step what it is that you're doing. So you're able to put process together. That's what building a company is. You're essentially hypothesizing what the process is, put that structure on yourself, go test to see if you're right or wrong, review it, reflect and say, hey, how much do I need to change? And just keep iterating until you figure out the best possible path to where you're trying to get to. But if you're just I don't know, I just send a bunch of emails and people respond and then I talk and then they tend to buy, how did I learn anything? What can I bet on you for that? But if you're hey, I specifically reached out to this person with these 5 attributes and so on and so forth, then I can hear that what it is that you're trying to accomplish and you have a plan on where you're going. I can get behind that.
It's a deliberate process. It's not, nothing changes. We're not improving, but everything is improvement.
Yeah, we're not gonna hit a grand slam right out of the gates. I want you to be okay with failing a little bit, because there's no way. If I already knew what to do, I wouldn't hire you. I'd go hire a robot and just say, hey, do these things.
Yeah, we're all trying to iterate here, and then you need people to do that. So now that you've hired your 3 people, you've had some successes, where do you go from here?
So you hire your 3 people. I think at this point in time, number one, I'd start to look at some numbers. I'd look at the speed. I'd look at the velocity. I'd look at the fact of what are you trying to do? So if you're VC backed versus bootstrapped, I think you're going at different kinds of speeds, maybe even PE backed. I think you're looking at it in a number of different ways as far as what you're trying to accomplish and the speed in which you're trying to accomplish that. I think there's also where you are in the market. So market maturity is going to be a big one. So could you potentially have some false positives? Absolutely. I've been in businesses where you have some false positives. We hit a lot of tech forward, forward thinking kind of people. And then all of a sudden, you stall a little bit. And so I personally like to go through that phase a little bit where I give it a little bit of time to say, make sure that we can sell customer after customer. And then I'm also looking at churn management. Just because I'm selling them, are they sticking around and seeing the value? or are we just selling, selling, selling? So I think the value creation on the back half has to be realized before we can actually scale to any type of actual big company, because then you just have a leaky bucket effect and you are selling a ton, but it's all a big portion of it's falling out the back.
Based on your experience, are there benchmarks that you think are good indicators that we don't have a leaky bucket anymore? It could be for a particular segment. It doesn't have to be broadly across the industry.
You probably want like single digit churn, like low single digit churn. If you're like a SaaS company, or really just churn can be in any kind of way. But I think that churn is going to be the thing. If you're value driven, one of the things that I like to do is actually have conversations with customers, and I ask them 6 or 7 different questions around their experience, what they liked, what they were hesitating about purchasing, favorite part of the product, like what are they getting out of it? And if they can articulate the value that is the same that I'm expecting them to say, check the box, like we're off and running, we're doing some good things. It's delicate dancing right there to be able to move too fast.
At what point have you created the repeatable sales process? What does that picture look like? Is the founder out of it completely, or?
At the final product, yeah, absolutely. I think the thing is, this is one of those that you're like always building. I think this is the part that a lot of founders miss, is this isn't like a project where you just have a start and they have a finish and then you're done. It's just an evolving how we constantly get better. And you're just having different people own the ownership of the actual machine, or in this case, the playbook itself. And so at a certain specific point in time, once you can start to have a number of different sellers on your team, maybe they're working with marketing, maybe they're working with events, depending on how you have the team set up. Once you see the velocity start to move and you start to see deals actually trickle over and over and over, does it make sense to actually have almost like a director where you have someone who is selling still a little bit, or still in the front lines and helping the others sell, while also being like an actual like manager? I think you have to have RevOps in there from a process perspective, analytics perspective, cross departments. And then once that machine starts to be a little bit self-sufficient, the founder has been in the whole time. That doesn't mean the founder's cool, I hired the sales leader or sales manager, I'm out. I think the thing is they're involved, they're coaching the sales leader or the director to be able to see what it is that they're looking for. Ideally, what you would want is one of your sales reps to be able to get promoted. That's not always the case, but if obviously that would be ideal, because then you have baked in product knowledge and org knowledge and all those types of things. But the founder's still involved because they're going to be able to help see everything as well as stay in the front lines. At that point in time, once you have $1 million, $2 million in sales, if you're like a SaaS tech company, that's typically like the rule of thumb is once you can get to some of those types of numbers, then you can look at it and go, okay, this makes sense to start to transition. But I would actually, and this is just my personal opinion, is I like to go a little bit on the late side of that transition and be a little bit more confident in making the transition, making sure I have product market fit, making sure I have value creation and value realized and some of those types of things, and then hitting the gas, because I think the risk of getting it wrong is a ton of money, a ton of wasted effort. Like you're betting a lot versus just saying, hey, let's hold on for another 6 to 12 months if the thing is starting to look pretty good, especially in a fundraising environment like that.
I wish more VCs had your mentality.
That's the thing. Like there's slow and then there's cricket slow type of, or molasses ant slow. But I think I look at it and go, this is the difference between the type of investors that you have. So, this is when you look at more of the institutional investors, the reason that the institutionals are putting in the checks that they're in is because you've gone through angel, you've gone through a lot of this. And I think a lot of founders who maybe are uneducated are looking for this institutional money thinking, oh, I raised money from Sequoia and now I don't have to worry about anything. I'm just like, this is going to be amazing. And they're going to help me, which they will, but they're still like, you have to be proving certain things. In the earlier stages, it's all just a guess. It's just your idea. It's your best bet. And so until you can prove some of that, like, why scale when there's a very good chance you're going to get it wrong, unravel it, and then rebuild it in a slightly different direction? Look at your own company, right? You said you're on your 4th product. Imagine if you hardcore scale and dumped all your money in on the first one, you never even would have gotten to the 4th one because you would have blown all your cash.
That's right. We are ever building these truth blocks. That is the foundation of our business. And the moment that we stop building truth blocks, then we have shaky foundation and it all comes collapsing down. How to learn the hard way. Alex, it has been a pleasure. I know you got stuff to do. Yes, we're grateful that we still have some time so that we can learn it and then also potentially benefit from it. How can people find out more about you?
Two ways. I'm always on LinkedIn. I usually post once a week during the week, Alex Newman with two N's, or visit me at alexnewman.com. I have a bunch of playbooks that you can get, work with me directly, one-on-one coaching, as well as working directly with the company and the team.
It was very nice talking with you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I appreciate the time. Thanks for having me on.